The third example of the resurgence of Russia's near abroad is Kazakhstan, located to the east of the Caspian Sea, quite a bit distant from Europe. Kazakhstan, like Georgia, formed part of the Russian Empire in the 19th century and was one of the Soviet Socialist republics under the unified USSR before the collapse of the USSR in 1991 and the formation of independent states among the former SSRs, including Russia and, in this case, Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan lies in a mountainous region that was also covered with a thick grass vegetation suitable for the invasion of the Mongols. It was part of the kind of highway from east to west that involved the invasion of Russia we talked about earlier. The Kazakhs, like the Georgians and the Ukrainians and other peripheral countries, have a lot to be resentful about toward the Russian domination. During the 1930s, Kazakhstan was the object of vast forced migrations of population, including the introduction of large numbers of Russians who took over land in the northern part of Kazakhstan on the border with Russia. Kazakhstan during the Soviet period was also the site of hundreds of Soviet above-ground nuclear tests. In fact, it is the one spot in the world in which there have been more atmospheric nuclear tests than anywhere else, leaving behind a residue that threatens the health and stability of much of this region. The economy of Kazakhstan depends overwhelmingly on the production of oil and gas. It has one of the largest natural gas reserves in the world, and that oil and gas has to be taken out of the country either overland through Russia to the west or through China to the east, or, as they hope, across the Caspian Sea and eventually out by rail and water to markets in Europe and beyond. This situation has persuaded the Kazakhs to be conservative in their foreign policy. The quote-unquote president of Kazakhstan for life, Nursultan Nazarbayev, pictured here, is an authoritarian figure who maintains tight control over the country within and conducts a very astute foreign policy of currying favor with both his neighbors to the west, the Russians, and to the east, the Chinese, knowing that the success of the Kazakh economy depends upon their ability to export natural resources, principally oil and gas, but also animal products and other agricultural products overland through Russia and China. So one has not seen in Kazakhstan the type of bid for Western connections, either membership in the EU or membership in NATO, that one saw in Ukraine and Georgia and got these countries into so much trouble with the Russian neighbors. Rather, Kazakhstan has been a tightly controlled society seeking good relations with the Russians, even selling the Russians oil and gas at concessionary prices, as well as trying to develop outlets to the east through China. In sum, what this lecture has shown is that growing out of its physical conditions, the Russians have been overwhelmingly preoccupied by security on their land borders. This led to the formation of the expansive Russian Empire, a restoration of that territorial control under the USSR, and following the collapse of the USSR, the efforts by the Russian Federation to restore a maximum of leverage over its quote-unquote near abroad in order to recreate that security perimeter that Russians have perennially sought to control.